Today we are in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, at Canadian National's Bell Yard. I found myself at Bell Yard just by chance, chasing the Kansas City Southern northbound to this yard where they interchange with Canadian National. Bell Yard seems to be pretty active, with tank cars, a load of boxcars at the south end of the yard, several crews working, engines being serviced, and switching going on. It was the switching in particular that led me here. This Grand Trunk locomotive, which is a pretty rare find for me, is why I came to Bell Yard in the first place, and did pursue the Kansas City Southern. I heard on the radio southbound Canadian National headed toward the yard, so I changed locations to catch that. When I arrived, the train was stopped just short of the diamond, and then the conductor got down from the locomotive to go do something at the switch stand. Normally there's a control signal, but it seems like he did something manually to get a clear signal to go to the yard, and then proceeded to get back onto the locomotive. And the second locomotive you see in this train is the Canadian National Heritage Unit, celebrating their 100th anniversary, which was 2019. This very long and slow freight, which I thought was a southbound to Mobile, was actually going to work the yard, and we'll see more of that later. This train had a variety of cars headed for different destinations. Boxcars, covered hoppers, empty center beam flat cars, more boxcars, and this time a long line of them. After a line of boxcars, it was a nice surprise. Double stacked intermodal containers on well cars. I'm not sure where they're headed, but this type of rail traffic helps reduce the amount of trucks on the road. With the train passed and pulling into the yard, let's take a better look at Hattiesburg. The train we just saw was headed south on Canadian National's Beaumont sub towards Bell Yard. Shown coming north is Norfolk Southern's NO and NE district, head towards the Hattiesburg yard and an Amtrak station, where we're headed next. First, we take a look at the diamond. This is where the Canadian National crosses the Norfolk Southern. The Norfolk Southern has a signal stand that protects it on the south and the north end of the diamond. And here we take a look at the signal for the Canadian National. This is what the conductor just used for the southbound going into the yard. Looking directly south, this is the yard lead that connects from the main to the yard, where trains can enter northbound into the yard or exit southbound into the main. There is also an interchange track seen further behind, where the Canadian National and Norfolk Southern can interchange cars. Looking north, we get a better look at Norfolk Southern's Hattiesburg yard. There seems to be some traffic in here with tank cars. There's also an old Southern Railway flat car here. I'm not sure how long it's been here, although this is an old Southern Railway yard. The device in the foreground is used to identify what cars enter and leave the yard on northbound and southbound freight trains through a radio identification system on each car. And on the east end of the yard, we have the Amtrak station that serves Hattiesburg. It gets 2 trains a day, northbound and southbound Crescent, which we're waiting for right now. When we looked south again, I noticed that the dwarf signal for Norfolk Southern went from a stop aspect to a restricting. Now I did hear engine work in the yard, but shortly after I turned to this angle, the signal went back to stop. Not long after that, the Amtrak finally appeared over the hill, head toward the station. Amtrak 20, also known as the Crescent, is a daily northbound that leaves out of New Orleans, Louisiana, going to New York City. It has stops in between like Hattiesburg and Atlanta. And for the second time today, I caught a heritage unit. In the second spot, we see Amtrak's 50th anniversary locomotive, celebrating its 50th year, which is from 1972 to 2022. I intended to go around to the other side of the station for a going away shot, but there was a rail crew working on a switch stand doing a lot of welding, and I didn't want to get in their way. So this would be the last we see at Amtrak for the day. I was getting ready to pack up and leave for the day, but on the radio I heard more work at Bell Yard, so I headed back south to see what I could find. When I headed back south to Bell Yard, I pulled up to the crossing right below the yard, right in time for a backing move. Something I didn't notice at the time of filming, but notice how they're connecting the train before they get to the signal. This signal, which is a CTC signal, which stands for Centralized Traffic Control, this is part of a signal network. If they were to connect this train beyond the signal, technically they'll be following the signal, which is against the rules, and would interfere with that signal system. While the conductor was connecting the train, someone from the yard pulled up in a pickup to take him back to the front of the train when he was done. I took a moment to take note of the signal box and the generator along with it. This is something I'm kind of unfamiliar with, but as I was taking a look, the train started to pull forward. As I zoomed in for a better shot of the train headed back into the yard, I noticed that the 2 locomotives that were sitting on the main were from this morning. As I shot this in real time, what I thought was going to happen was this train was going to get pulled into the siding. Those 2 locomotives we just looked at were going to pull out, pass the signal, hook onto these cars, and head south, and that was the shot I was going to get. When this train started to stop, I realized this train was getting ready to head back north through the Double Diamond out of Hattiesburg, so I went to go get that shot. I left almost immediately, but it wasn't in time to get a good shot of the train, so this is what we got. And as the afternoon traffic started to build and the sky looked like rain, it was my cue to head home. Hope you all enjoyed this video, and hopefully I have another one for you soon. Of course, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you like, you can follow on Instagram at Southeast Beltline. And until next time, take care.